This place is empty, cave-like, and strangely inviting. Hello everyone, and welcome back once again to Gary's Mod. And today, the map we're going to be exploring is RP Refuge, a map based on the Metro universe, so presumably this takes place in the Moscow Metro subway system. An extensive set of lines and stations, and a whole lot of secrets in between. I really like the Metro series. I've played 2033 and Last Light, but I've never really delved too deeply into the lore, and it's been a long time. But I've always loved the way they approach not only the post-apocalyptic setting, but also the scientific and potentially similar to supernatural horrors within. There is a lot going on down here, and probably my favorite thing about it is stuff like this. I mean, you can see the original intention of all of this. These things were built as transport hubs and bomb shelters. And now that they've served their purpose, they become a home. I mean, look at this. We can see these makeshift stores and houses. All little places where people have adapted after spending about, I think it's like 10 or 20 years down here. Even the lighting, the fires and barrels, all very typical post-apocalyptic images. And yet here it means home, it means comfort. See right there. I have no idea what's on that fire, but I know I'd eat it. It's a set of ramshackle shacks built into what was at one time filled with bored commuters and potentially someone else lurking in the shadows. I've always loved how cozy they're able to make these places feel. We've got bunks up here, netting draped around it for some semblance of privacy. And a whole lot of flashing lights here. Wow, it is not playing nicely with this. But yeah, it's the adaptations that I love about it. The fact that these people realized eventually, after they were probably huddled down here in the beginning, that longer-term solutions were needed. And these were the longer-term solutions, the total transformation of the space. And it's not comfortable by our standards, but to them, in a world of mutants and radiation, they've managed to build something that feels like safety. Okay, let's start having a look around. We may be in a safe haven now, a refuge, if you will, but something tells me there's a lot more to this map. And we're going to want to venture down to the deeper levels in order to see what this is all about. Anything back here? Just more bunks. You gotta make the absolute most use of the space, because there's a lot of people down here, or there were, and some organization and division of labor is required. Okay, this loops back to here. See, look, this is a raised platform. Who knows why it existed before? But in its current state, it makes a perfect podium for addressing the crowd. So what's back here, then? I imagine this is the VIP quarters where all the leaders meet to discuss the plans they don't want to discuss in public. And what they do, they gather on the podium to announce. I mean, it's kind of hard not to be involved in local politics when you live in a place like this. You kind of have to be community-oriented or die. And, well, the difference between communities is kind of a big part of the Metro franchise. What the heck is this thing? Ooh. Oh, it's a bell! First of all, it's really cool that this is functional. And we've got some more quarters over here. Still in use, but it looks like there's a partial collapse down that way. I hope nobody was there when that happened. See, we may be underground, but one cool thing about this is that the Metro is in constant flux. But I'll get more into that as we go. The First thing is the simple physical changes that happen over time. This is a massive infrastructure project which was able to save a lot of lives in its day, but now is crumbling and without the means to even try to maintain it. What's back here? Ooh, a ladder. What was once probably a simple utility ladder now needs to be kept behind blast doors to keep out what could potentially crawl up through there. We'll save that for now and walk down a little ways. I'm surprised we haven't come on to any tracks yet. So this, I guess, is the other end of the collapse. Look at these little details, using little cans as burners, as candles. Could maybe cook a meal on them as well. Ooh, speaking of cooking a meal, I just can't get over this, because it is so dense, it is so lived in and detailed, that I can't see this as anything but a nice little dive bar, someplace people come in from after an expedition in the tunnels or even to the surface, and just kind of drink their problems away. Well, and the memories of whatever they may have seen while out and about, trading stories that no one believes. Well, that no one believes to their face, and they spread in the absence. The ammo right here being used as currency. That's my favorite thing about post-apocalyptic media. It's the adaptations people come up with. See, humans, we're hard to get rid of. And it's really cool to see these adaptations, how something that existed in the modern world can become something completely different, how we can find different uses for them. I mean, down here, relatively safe from the radiation, at least some shelter temporarily from the mutants, but only so long as it's maintained. And that's the thing, it's not just a cool adaptation, it's a constant struggle to make sure that that adaptation remains. You have to keep it viable, you have to constantly adapt to new challenges, and those challenges only compound each other the further we go. For example, I guess we have to find our entertainment where we can around here. Look at this, you've even got your own 2x4 dressing room. One where my head is practically brushing the ceiling, but still, it's cozy. I think there's something about the way all this is built that really appeals to the Fort Construction Center of the brain. I'll be publishing a scientific journal on that in the near future, don't worry. See, look at this. What was once the last stop before you get on the train, where you swipe your card, now a very effective security checkpoint. And we can step onto these platforms that now act as essentially highways between stations. So I guess we'll start walking those lines. Can we go out this way? We can. But once you move beyond the safety of the station, the walls we built, the defensive positions, now it really does feel like we're out in the open, exposed. And were this actual Metro, were we in-game, we would soon find exactly why, as anywhere that isn't settled by humans is absolutely infested with the mutants that were, well, mutated by the radiation. The rats that were down here, they never left. Oh, it is so dark out here. It only feels right to use the lantern, but maybe at times the distances will be great enough that we need the flashlight. Oh my. All this is on its face nothing more than public transportation infrastructure, but after all this, when it's been left empty for so long, and when we're in such an information dark age, it all takes on a whole different meaning. It's like having your home be right above ancient ruins. Because down here, with everything underground, you never know what's just parallel to you. It's so cool that this is all construction built by humans not even so long ago. And yet it may as well be an ancient tomb. There's so many unknowns, so many mysteries. There's legends about parts of the tunnel that someone may have been to. And yet, even for as literally on rails as it all is, once again, there's just so many unknowns. So impossible to discern myth from truth. Oh wow, this really is just still going. Okay, come to a similar structure on the other side. Maybe this comes out someplace useful. Yep. Yeah, this is completely parallel. Well, at least symmetry gives us some semblance of where we're going. Okay, I think we're gonna need to switch to the flashlight now. Look at that! I can't even see the bottom nor the ceiling from where I'm standing. This chamber is huge. But there's the white glow of daylight piercing through. That's the crazy thing. There's, after 20 years, young people born in the Metro who have never seen sunlight. But here we are. I can hear the wind from up above, and it's both ominous and welcomed. In a place that's totally still and silent in the dark, it's, I don't know, almost inviting. Actually, this place looks kind of familiar. Wait, was this a location in 2033? I mean, it's been over a decade since I played, I think, but I don't know, it's really coming back to me right now. Let's go down this way. Let's focus on the direction where we can at least see something. But it's going to be really, really hard with all this connectivity to keep an eye on where I'm going. I just heard a great grinding sound from somewhere deep. Yes, this is where we were, and I hadn't noticed the graffiti before, but yeah, this is the base of the communists. And within the Metro, you have all these different groups, because human nature being what it is, different stations being isolated from each other, even if they were all Moscow citizens before, became isolated for a while. And eventually, over time, groups went out, made expeditions beyond the tracks, connected each other. But by then, the tribes had formed. We have communists living in some areas. We have more unaligned places and fascists. And a whole web of, essentially, countries within a structure. You always got to be grateful for those few places where the lights are on. But man, all of this is so wide open. I just can't keep track of what I'm doing. The cool thing, though, is you would think that a place with all subway tracks would be the same, but every area kind of has its own personality. Whether it comes through in the lighting or the architecture. and in the game itself, in the constant back and forth between what these places represent. I mean, there are stations that have been overrun by mutants or by people, places left abandoned by conflict. And sometimes those places can even be restored, or sometimes they become like the bodies on Everest. Just another landmark on the way to whatever destination you're heading towards. Since this flashlight isn't doing much for me right now, we may as well go back to the lantern. You know, that's not entirely true. I'll be honest, I do like the color of the lantern better, but it seems like that's the end of this map. Anything beyond these doors? Besides more doors, I mean? I'm just constantly getting lost in the dark. Yeah, as much as I prefer the light of the lantern, I think the flashlight is just more practical so that you guys can see anything. The lantern works better in smaller spaces, and the Moscow Metro is anything but. Sandbags. See, that's the thing about maintaining the status quo in the Metro. It's really, really easy to create choke points, defensive strongholds. Sometimes ambiance just comes and goes. I don't know, there's just something so atmospheric and bleak about walking the tracks. Being the one living thing, being the one beacon in the dark. So here we have what looks like a sort of service station. Makes for a good outpost, I guess. But you just never know what you're gonna find. I don't know how true this is. I've not actually researched it at all. But I'm pretty sure the Moscow Metro, for being one of, if not the most sprawling metros in the world, it's even bigger in that it has a deeper, more secure layer, specifically for the government. And that, I'm sure, is... whether it's true or not, I'm sure that's bound to create a lot of legends and rumors. Look at that. I feel like the Metro universe is very well summed up by the phrase, life finds a way. Life finds a way even in death, as this weird mutated sludge of a fungus grows from a human corpse. Seems like here we have a dead end. Unless we're able to jump through the window. Oh, we are! We can climb through this car. Or we can go around. But let's see what's over here first. So much up and down, but to begin with, I have no idea how deep all of this is. Did you hear that? I can't take my eyes off that door. I swear I heard like a long, drawn-out scream, but I couldn't be sure because it happened while I was opening the door. Oh no. Are these sewers that we're connected onto? That body wasn't alone. Things may be muted here, but I'm still hearing distant sounds all over. Okay, collapse. Fine by me. Oh god, this is making me want to play the games again. Oh no, don't slip in. So here's what I was talking about earlier when I talked about how much I love Metro's portrayal of the supernatural. And it's not quite clear where these things come from, but I've been in love with it ever since I played the first level of the first game. Because your first encounter with these things is likely to be the first time you board a cart moving down the tracks with a whole group of people, and as you're sitting there, kind of half paying attention to the conversation, you'll be looking into the dark down the tracks, your one light on front of the cart, and at some point you'll notice just a shadow. No sound or scare cord or anything, just a shadow walking along the tracks in the same direction you're traveling, and you pass right over and through it. No one mentions it, it's never acknowledged, but you know what you saw. That's the kind of understated eeriness that I love in a situation. Well, it may not be the comfort of a station, but it looks like somebody set up what they could where they could, and it makes sense. It's at the end of a cave-in, so it's defensible and no one knows where it is. Thing is, I've got no idea where I am. I mean, I keep following what catches my interest, but there's so many branching paths off of everything. Hello? It's a dead end. This door doesn't want to open. And back to here. Just one level up. Well, if we're taking this piece by piece, maybe we should go all the way up and then back down to that train? As if I don't already know that I'm going to find more here. What's this over here? Another service exit. Huh. One could use these pipes to climb up or down here. Maybe we should have a look. Can you imagine the long-term health effects of trying to survive in a place like this? I mean, these adaptations may help in the moment, but it can't be good for you. Yep. This was definitely not meant for a human to crawl through. In fact, it's probably meant to facilitate water between chambers. But when the well is dry, we've got a way through. Oh, but we are ending up so deep. Come on, let me... Ah, here we are. And all of these tracks, like, it's not like other maps where one level is the tracks and then maybe there's something below it. These things crisscross each other in every direction. It's also vertical. But where does this come out? Oh, look at how twisted this is. There are parts where sections of collapsed tunnel are pouring in through the windows like a waterfall. You gotta hope that no one was in here when it happened. But I think we've made our way full circle. It's got this cool thing. I swear I just hallucinated something standing there when I turned around. Something to do with this shadow from my flashlight, but God. It may have its share of scares, but Metro, I feel, has always been a very contemplative game, and its morality system actually reflects that. Because it's not just about how good of a person you were, how nice and how generous you were. It's very much about how much you engage with the world. It's actually got one of the more unique systems as far as how you get the ending as well. Like many games, it has a system of positive and negative moral points that it applies and adds and subtracts as you go. And it's based on your responses to events and things you see around you, but positivity is more about curiosity rather than our sense of goodness. I mean, it certainly can be that, but it's basically, if you're the kind of person who just does the objective that's on screen and just shoots everything in sight, you're not going to be deemed curious. And what it really wants is for you to be curious and understanding and thoughtful. And in the end, being those things doesn't determine whether you get a good or a bad ending. It determines whether you get to make a choice for an ending. It determines whether you have the level of self-awareness and self-determination to go beyond what's been asked of you. And that is a really cool way to incorporate that and get players to engage with the world. Okay, this isn't the same stop that we entered before, and this one does not have a convenient slope for us to climb. But we can make the jump, thankfully, just barely. Imagine the architecture will be similar, though. Yes, it will. I can't help but be reminded of a certain SCP. Oh no, no. Whenever I accidentally tap that button, it's sort of like being left in the dark when my flashlight malfunctions. At least that's how I like to think of it. But if you can push past the scariness of the tunnel and the even scarierness of the stairs, looks like somebody has managed to create a hangout. Or perhaps just an impromptu moonshine distillery. I guess you can get some good business around here. You just have to protect your assets. Hey, when we look from this angle, we can see some more sunlight coming through. Sunlight or a spotlight, I guess we'll have to get closer to find out. Oh, it's... Look at that, we've made a full loop. We're back in this huge central chamber. I wonder, this almost reminds me of like a platform that would rotate. I don't think it is, though. There would have to be a perpendicular track in the walls over here, right? The sense of scale of this, I can't believe such huge things can exist underground. And least of all, under a huge city. I mean, I think about this all the time because New York City also has a huge subway system that I've ridden on many times. And it's crazy to me that with all these tall buildings and all this infrastructure above, a lot of these tunnels were built underneath all that. Like, the tunnels came later. At least in a lot of areas. Okay, down here is just the underside walkways. Useful for stealth and gameplay. Probably not going to really take us anywhere right now. Although I will check in a bit. I definitely remember sneaking around these areas, though. You know, actually, now I'm looking around. How cool would it be to set up living spaces along these walkways? I mean, there's a decent amount of space between here and the railing. You could have a whole, like, cliffside city. On the one hand, I guess the survivors were blessed with having a lot of underground surface area. And yet cursed that it was this kind of surface area. Okay, this is where we entered from. Oh, man, there's something that so appeals to me about peeling... Continued on for a second. Wait, where even are we? One second we were in an area that's meant to be populated. Now we're in these blackened corridors that seemingly lead to nowhere. And that scratching noise makes it feel like there's something maybe in here with me. This is how ghost stories get started. And I mean, this is when it's at its most populated. Imagine being a maintenance worker down here before the fall. Having to replace something or patch something up all on your own. And then when you come back looking like you've seen a ghost, your coworkers are just smiling to themselves like, yep, they already know that you heard it too. It's just going deeper and deeper. Oh, you seem to have missed a no-draw texture right here. Don't think I wouldn't notice. But what is even the purpose of such wide tunnels? I mean, it's definitely nothing even remotely public-facing. I would say this looks like it's meant for transporting cargo in secret. Or potentially escape tunnels for large numbers of government officials. I mean, I'm just saying, these seem like a lot more than just steam tunnels. Registration... something? I don't know, I'm just sounding things out and hoping that it sounds close enough to an English word that I can figure something out. Oh wow, this tunnel seems to be much, much worse for wear. And here, beyond the collapse, where it's so much effort to reach this, somehow I feel even more isolated than I already did. The line between abandoned and occupied is very, very hazy down here. The way you determine if something is abandoned, you'll know it when you see it. This is collapsed as well. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to make it through. I hate turning around, though, because, again, even though it's a Gary's Mod map, I feel like whatever was pursuing me is now going to be right in my path. You know, this is all really impressive in terms of scale and detail, but I think this is actually a re-upload of a fairly old map. There's something back there. I think the original was from 2014, but the creator said that, yeah, certain things aren't working correctly, so basically it's up to the community to keep it maintained. And so I basically got whatever the more recent release is from a few years ago. So hopefully this is more compatible with modern carries mod. Certainly seems to be. I mean, I'm getting thoroughly spooked here. Okay, I think that's where we came from. So we need to see what's in this station. And this looks at least a little bit more inviting. Actually, it looks a lot more inviting. There we go, one flush loud later, and we can see the floodlights. I feel like there were a lot of moments like that in the games where you end up in a mutant encounter, you're holding your own at first, but you start to run low on ammo and party members. Things get increasingly desperate until eventually you see your destination ahead. Lights, and lights mean people, and people mean help. And you start running towards it, first desperately hoping that you'll make it, and then hoping that you're actually going to receive help and not just bringing death to someone else. It also opens up on the other side, but you know what? I'm gonna take my break where I can get it. Well, here we are. We've made it through the checkpoint. Now we can sit down at the bar. I really think that one of the best ways to make the experience land in a game like this is to make sure that we feel how much effort everything is. I mean, it wouldn't be nearly as cool if we could just kind of fast travel or take the train between the different stations. It actually makes you feel the difference between in and out. It allows you to indulge in the safety and companionship of the stations so that you feel the difference when you're outside in the tunnels and you're so alone and afraid and so outmatched. Because I feel like when you get a sense of how difficult it is to actually do things, you don't need to have a skyscraper collapsing or a huge set piece every 10 minutes. If a game can make you grateful just to get from point A to point B or just to survive an encounter, and make you feel the consequences of every little action, you'll get a lot more mileage out of it. I mean, that's why in urban exploration videos, I try to show, like, you know, if something goes wrong with a bag, or if we have to make a decision where we have to take a longer way around, or react to somebody walking around outside. Because it may not be particularly exciting, but by showing the processes involved, it makes everything feel more impactful. That's what this game does, is it makes you appreciate what a Herculean task it is just to go from one station to another. And just getting there feels like a reward. Unfortunately, this one seems to be largely cut off. It's a port in the storm, but that's all it is, because the connection has collapsed. So, it was nice to sit here, get our bearings, but I think we're gonna have to walk those tracks once more. Little as I want to. I had never really considered it before, but even light itself is a reward, getting to see any at all. Coming upon a rusting subway carriage is like finding a whale skeleton on the ocean floor. So we all just heard that breath, right? Okay. I gotta wonder, were there people in this car when this happened? Come on, let me through. It feels almost like cave diving or archaeology. Look at this. Inside this train car must be even worse. Who knows if there's still bodies or skeletons within? So many of these probably became tombs. And maybe those within don't appreciate the sound of me clanking over the roof. This map, it applies those sounds so infrequently that it just makes all the hairs on the back of my neck stand up every time. It's another service station. In fact, this may be the one that we came upon before. Is there an open door? It is. Okay, so we've once again made a loop. It doesn't feel like it's looping, but you recognize the landmarks when you see them. All right, I feel a little bit better now. But also not really, because we just heard what we did. All right, so what do I check on next, then? Hello, fungus corpse. It really is like Everest. I'm using you guys as landmarks. I knew that sooner or later we'd have to crawl in here. I might have a hard time fitting, but something tells me Nosalises wouldn't. Oh my. It's not even going to let me through. Nope, I cannot make it in there. I'm about as crouched as I can possibly be. Well, there's still some unopened doors down this way. Actually, I don't believe I've been here at all. Look, there's some eviscerated people. At first I had thought this whole mess was a couple of mutant corpses, but no. And the blood on the ground, these are recent. Looks like some kind of control room. Population control room. Oh, this is a whole thing. We found a whole thing. Its main entrance may be collapsed, but the back areas are still open. And this one doesn't look like anybody lives here. The power is on, though. Ah, here's a station. Okay, so I guess it's not quite as isolated as I had thought. This door's been open before. Huh, look at that. If we had only made a left, we'd have come out somewhere else. See, when it comes to a subway map, everything is interconnected. Everything weaves around everything else. I'm just making sure that every door is open. And this is an area that we neglected to come to before. All right. I sorta know my way around now. I'm an expert of the Metro. So, what do you say we start climbing? I mean, maybe that does give some sense of comfort, right? I imagine there would be superstitions based around this, that the higher up you are, the closer you are to the surface, the safer you are, the safer your soul is. Because those who die in the deepest portions are trapped forever. There's still higher to go. Oh, this is a higher portion of the drains. See, on the one hand, it can be comforting to see a loose light, but on the other, it makes you wonder what happened to the one who placed it. Oh, no. And here's the other side of this, the door we never made it to, because I just had to explore the drains below. But my reward and my punishment is that I get to explore another giant dark room where my light doesn't make it to the edges. And there's nothing else in here. You know what? Works for me. It's cool, though, because you gotta remember that this is an RP map, so it's nice that it gives a lot of open space. It doesn't over-furnish it so that you can't do your own things with it. Actually, it's kind of brilliant, the idea of having a Metro RP server, since the whole premise actually lends itself so readily to that. I think this might be the highest up we've ever been. And yet, we are still on the level of the Metro. When you're pushing forward in here, like, really, I just feel the need to crawl up inside one of these train cars and hide under the seats. Hey, look! Look, snow! This actually leads to daylight. Hang on, if we can get out and around. Look at this. There's even regular cars down here. Who knows if they were thrown in or if someone tried to drive in here in the aftermath. Either way, no wonder it's all sealed away. The few who get to experience this to come up and see the remains of what once was. It must feel like climbing the stairs and entering heaven, for as much of a hell as it is in reality. I can't believe this map actually lets us go to the surface. Look at this, that one unassuming black hole in the ground. You would never know at a glance what a world it leads to. Look at this, we can climb on board and go have a seat by the window. And just imagine for a second where somebody who came before, somebody who remembers what it was like, who remembers riding the subway when these trains were operational. I mean, just imagine the stories that the old-timers being people in their 30s and 40s, would tell to the youngins. That's something else I find cool about post-apocalyptic stories, is the immediate generational gap between those who were born afterwards and those who remember before, and those who remember before may not even be that old. But they essentially get upgraded to elder status. Well, let's continue our search then. Our search for nothing in particular. And there's nothing here. I actually shouldn't be going back anyway, because for all I know, there could be something else to find here on the surface. Look at all this, the scale of this destruction, and yet, to someone even who was around before, being able to see all this again must be almost akin to a religious experience. I mean, none of this would even seem real, that there was a time when just anyone could live on the surface. It's like learning that people used to be able to live on the moon at that point. Is there something over there? I mean, besides a free car. It's a metro entrance. You can see the flurry of snow passing in. I imagine people would come up to the gates just to feel the cool air. To catch a glimpse of sunlight. I do wonder how safe it would be. Like, how deep would you have to go to avoid any negative effects of the environment outside? Like, would it be safe to have people standing around over here? The fact that material is clearly blowing in through those gates certainly suggests not, but this far removed, who knows? But look at that. It's a blinding white light just pouring in. A place everyone wants to see, but where no one can go, except for a select few. Believe it or not, down here is where home is. Hey! It really is where home is. We're right back where we started. This map has been such a tremendous amount of fun, and I always love how when you just take the time to walk around and speculate about architecture, you end up with something fairly close to what was intended. I can just imagine the dynamics that would arise on an RP map, because I think human nature being what it is, it would go very similar to how it goes in the game. You would have different groups and cliques, and in the end, different cultures that form around the different stations. Meanwhile, the area between them just becomes a no man's land, where most of the conflict is fought, and when things do change hands, it's a major dramatic event. I can't wait to do a no-clip run of this thing. There's definitely going to be things I missed. But first, we never did try going down this ladder, did we? Whoa! Oh! Hey, look at that! Some kind of storeroom. And it doesn't look like there's any getting back up for us. It's a sealed-off one-way trip. I guess only to be used in the event of an emergency, but I definitely have not been here before. The closed doors do not lie. Not only do I not think we're done, I'm pretty sure there's a whole section of this place that we've yet to encounter. But the only way to fix that is to move forward. Or downward. Or upward. That could always be a thing. I prefer that. I think we should do that first. And I do wonder which parts of this are part of the government's second infrastructure. Because some of this does not look like regular subway operation equipment. But I may have actually encountered this. Hang on. No. Well, I guess the power equipment down here is how some of the lights stay on. But you'd have to improvise for that as well, especially after decades down here. I mean, any fuel that it would run on would have long ago run out, wouldn't it? Yet somehow they're figuring something out. They're clearly mostly using gas and candlelight and all that. But even things like that, I imagine, would eventually be a challenge to maintain. I mean, just as important as resources would be smart people who know how to live off of what's here. But I guess there is also the necessity of making scavenging runs on the surface. That's a unique challenge of this, and I guess it really plays into that Russian bleakness. You can't really do agriculture here either. When there's no access to sunlight, probably very limited access to water. For that matter, what are they doing for water? Because wouldn't any melted snow be radioactive? It's the kind of thing that just seems bad in all directions, no matter how you look at it. But life finds a way. Before we rejoin the main tunnel, let's see what's going on down here. Little though I may want to. Well, that door is scary looking. Look at this. Brick walls. A subway station totally dark. In a post-apocalyptic world, somehow this feels even more abandoned. I'm going to try to go in, and it's okay if you tell me no. Thank you very much. Still, it looks like... Nope, 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 nope. It looks like there's a cave-in at the end of this as well. Although... yeah, it looks like we can use the train cars to get through. And to someplace we weren't supposed to be. Well, at least somebody's been here. We're going deeper still. No way, this connects onto an even deeper tunnel. And an even darker one. See, this is what I was trying to say before we discovered the surface. It's an overwhelming darkness, the kind of thing that just envelops you. But... wait, have we been here? Okay, I think we have been. Until you catch a glimpse of those lights, you just can't ever tell. There's a sense of connectivity here that I guess makes it easier to traverse, easier to subvert any defenses. But you just never know where you're going to come out. I swear I just heard faint, distant laughing, and I don't like that at all. Oh my god, that sent chills down my spine. This map has such subtleties in its audio design. I love it. And such cool little areas to call home. Part of what I was trying to say before is that you would think that these tunnels underground would be really claustrophobic, but they're the exact opposite. They're massive. So when you can find a little spot like this, even just a closet, and light a candle and sit down on a cushion, it may as well be the lap of luxury. Everything's relative. If anything, that's what post-apocalyptic media teaches us, is that everything is relative. When you lose those comforts, your standard changes. And some people are happier that way. Since we're back on the main line, I suppose we could start searching further down. Hey, there's a control room up there. Maybe for opening that gate? If we can find a way to get there, that would be most useful. Question is, how do we do it? Probably through that door over there, but it's locked. We've been here before. That's a door we may have missed. And this goes back around. So many doors that we missed, so many sounds to the periphery. And it all comes echoing out of the darkness, so it kind of makes you feel like part of you is curious to see what it is. Another part of you says to get as far away as possible. I think these are, yes. These are those dark halls that scared me. And are continuing to do so. Oh wait, have I been that way? I've been looking all over trying to figure out how I get around that barricade. Even more corpses down here. And what looks to be quite a large elevator shaft or something. What is the need for something like this? Still, it's not quite what I was looking for. It seems like the only way to go is down. Wow, that's deep. That is impossibly deep, and even on the lowest level, it goes even deeper still. Okay, we're definitely hiding something here. This is not regular subway stuff. No, apparently it's just one room. Really? All that just leads to here? I don't even understand this from an RP perspective. Well, I guess if you look at the bend of the railings, somebody had a bad time at some point. Maybe that's what it's for. Maybe it's a method of disposal. And that's why all these guys are piled up right here. It's the queue. Imagine having that be your final resting place. I'm just back home now, and I just realized there's even more back here. We neglected to check this place. Well, judging by the fact that we're apparently growing these corpse shrooms, maybe we even breed livestock down here? I can't imagine that would be easy at all. But I guess we can grow something to subsist off of. That's pretty neat. I guess if there's UV lamps down here, it's possible. This door we never opened. Yeah! look at that. Blast doors so that we can see what's on the outside and decide who we do and don't let through. So this really is a map about the fort side of our brain. Oh, we can have so much fun deciding who does and doesn't get to come in. Maybe we can even ask for a password. It's only now that I realize just how much potential this has for RP, but I think we're just about done here. I think we've seen everything, and we learned that there really is no place like home because there's no comfier place in the Metro than right here where we started. This was super duper cool. It's open enough that there's plenty of room for role-playing and having different cliques and factions form. But it's also got all the detail and all the ambient scares that you would expect from Metro. In other words, this was clearly made by somebody who really cares about the franchise. And now it's just making me want to play the games themselves. But we can't finish this without a no-clip run. And actually, I'm thinking that a no-clip run, well, maybe not so much. We can definitely see the sense of complexity and how everything kind of stacks on top of each other in here. But in a place like this, where so many of these chambers are completely dark except for what light we bring with us, there are certain sections that simply aren't going to show up. Even our flashlight can't do anything at these distances. Still look at these blocked tunnels, the collapses all over. If we come up to the surface, we can see that it really is just a flat area. And as big as this is, it could almost be a map in its own right for construction. It really is only a small portion of the surface of what's down below. I think what's cool about the Metro tunnel setting is that it forces it to be very transit-focused, where you have a number of hubs where players can set up shop, but it's very much about the space between that defines the experience, and what players choose to do in the space between. Something like this would probably be even better if there was a player versus enemy element, which who knows, maybe with certain mods you can have that. But even the player versus player aspect is plenty ripe for gang warfare. Even within the map design itself, there's so much variety. Like, you can just kind of look around and immediately from a place's vibe, figure out that this is someplace someone calls home. This is the home of some unscrupulous fellows. This is the home of someone who just wants to get away from it all and enjoy things. And this is somewhere that they'd rather forget about. Someplace that's been long left behind and others are urged not to go through, even under the worst of circumstances. The Metro is a place of comforts and horrors and so many residual memories. And you can feel them as you walk these tunnels. And if you like this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more creepy and comfy content. If you have any ideas for other videos you think I should do, the best place to suggest that will be at the Discord, which I will link in the description. If you want to try this map out for yourself, that link will also be in the description. If you want to support me on Patreon, that link will be in the description. And as always, I will see you in the next one.